checkmate in 5 moves and a queen sacrifice. This is the Staunton Gambit. It starts with d4, they play f5. You attack the center with e4, black takes our pawn, but now you play queen h5 check, black defends with g6. Important step, make sure to pre-move bishop f2, so they think you blundered the queen. If they take our queen, get excited because bishop h5 is checkmate.
This is how to checkmate your friend's queen in 5 moves. First it is the usual e4 e5, then you play knight f3. Now this is a move a lot of people play. It is knight f6, also attacking your pawn. You take on e5, and they will take our pawn. You will play queen to e2, setting up the trap. If they move there, knight to any of these 4 squares, then they messed up, because after they move to their desired square, you play knight c6, discovery check. The knight can't be taken, as it is check. If they block with the queen, you take it, and if they block with the bishop, you take their queen. Try this against your friends, because
everyone falls for this trap. It is the Scotch Gambit. It starts with our king pawns, e4, e5, then knight f3. They play knight c6. Now you initiate the gambit with d4. I know what you are thinking. Black takes our pawn, and we trade up a piece. Instead, after black takes our pawn, we play knight g5. They get scared and play h6, but you sacrifice the horsey. They take our horsey, then you check with the bishop. They retreat on e8. Now it's all over. First give a queen check on h5. King e7 is forced. Now play queen f7 check. King d6 is also forced. You check with your pawn. Their knight captures our pawn, but now it's mate in 2. First play queen d5 check. King goes back, and now queen e5 is checkmate.
This is how to play the Queen's Gambit like a boss. It starts with d4, d5, you go c4, the Queen's Gambit, they decline with knight f6, you take the pawn on d5, they take back, you develop the knight with g3, they go knight c6, you attack the d5 knight, with the pawn, they retreat, you develop your knight with c3, they think they are smart, pinning the knight, but we attack, black's knight with pawn d5, they go to e5, which is a great blunder. You surprise them with sacrificing your queen, with knight takes knight, bishop takes our queen. Now you go bishop b5 check. Now whatever they do is checkmate or black's queen gets captured. If they defend with the pawn, you take it back. The only good move for black is queen c7. You take the pawn on b7, giving a discovered check. Black defends with the knight. You promote to a queen check. The only move is queen d8, and you give the beautiful checkmate with bishop takes on d7.
This is a brilliant gambit. It is the Danish Gambit. It starts with the king pawns, then d4 attacking the center. They take our pawn, and you sacrifice another pawn. After they take you, don't mindlessly recapture. Instead play bishop c4. They happily take our free pawn, and now you recapture with the bishop, resulting in you having 2 very powerful bishops. They attack our pawn with knight f6. We defend with knight c3. They want to take our pawn, so they pin our knight with bishop b4, and we allow them to do so with knight ge2. They take, and we just castle. After the knights are exchanged, they too also castle. Play knight d5, attacking the bishop. After bishop c5, you play the brilliant knight f6. Check, which forces them to take with the pawn, and it's all over now. You play queen g4. Check, king h8 forced. You play queen h4, putting pressure on the f6 pawn. They have to defend with bishop back to e7. You deliver the fatal blow bishop b4, leaving no option for black but to resign.
Almost no one knows this trap. It is the Stafford Gambit. It starts with e4, e5. They play knight f3. Now you play the trick move, knight f6. They take our pawn, and you play knight c6. They will trade the knights for a 1-pawn advantage. Now they will play d3 to protect their e4 pawn. You respond with bishop c5. If they play a move like pinning your knight with bishop g5, they messed up because you surprised them with sacrificing your queen. With knight takes on e4, they are greedy, and they take our queen. But little did they know, they already lost with mate in 2. First play bishop takes f2, check, king e2 is forced, and now bishop g4 is just checkmate.
This is how to do the legal mate in chess. First you start with e4 and black e5. Then you attack the pawn with knight f3. Black defends with knight c6. You bring out the bishop on c4. Black prepares a pin with bishop, so he moves the pawn to d6. You develop the knight on c3. If black pins the knight with g4, you attack with pawn to h3. Bishop goes back. This is the trap starting. You take the pawn on e5 and leaving your queen defenseless. Bishop takes your queen. you check the king with bishop to f7, now mate is unstoppable, king moves forward, then knight to d5 is checkmate. This is the Black Burns Shilling Gambit, checkmate in 7, here's the moves it starts with, first it's the usual e4 e5, then knight f3, you respond knight c6, they play bishop c4, the most popular move, now you play the trick move. Knight to d4, if they take your pawn on e5, then play queen g5, they will play knight takes f7 thinking they forked the queen, but you surprise them with queen takes g2, if they take our rook, then you can checkmate in a few moves, first take their rook check, they are forced to block with the bishop, then queen e4 check, they block with bishop e2, now play knight f3 check, king is forced to move because bishop is pinned, after king f1, you play the killer move, knight takes d2, and no matter how they take, it's mate with queen h1, however if they protect their rook with f1, queen takes e4 check, bishop blocks with e2, now knight, f3 is, checkmate.